South Africa welcoming the decision by the National Hunting and Shooting Association to withdraw an urgent legal challenge lodged in an effort to force the Police Minister to stop the National Firearms Amnesty. The 6-month grace period began on the 1st of December and will end at the end of May. Gun Free SA is calling on gun owners to aim for safety. So far, over 2,000 illegal firearms, in fact just firearms in general, have been handed over at various police stations across the country. Let's talk more about this now. Bring in Gun Free South Africa spokesperson Sarah Chitambo. She's live for us in our Pretoria studio. Sarah, very good afternoon to you. So you are quite pleased that this legal challenge has now been abandoned. Why is this amnesty period so important?
Good afternoon, Temeile and your viewers. Gun Free South Africa welcomes the fact that this interdict has been stopped to ensure that firearms are recovered. This amnesty period is very important for us because it ensures that we're taking illegal guns off the streets. We know that gun violence has gone up in both Gauteng, Western Cape and KZN over the last few years. And we've been pushing for this amnesty to be in place for the last few years. So we're very happy that it is in motion and that we are recovering illegal guns from intimidating and scaremongering and being used in crimes on the streets. And
one of the arguments that was brought in challenging this amnesty period and its effectiveness was the fact that, or the argument at least, that the people who do use this amnesty period are not the dangerous criminals on our streets who are using illegal firearms. Surely there's merit to that?
Be that as it may, where do these guns that the criminals use for their crimes come from? They come from the legal pool. They are stolen from legal and civilian arms, and they are then used for criminal activity. So if you look at the past in terms of the crime stats, 9,000 guns were lost or stolen by civilians gun owners. These are legal gun owners. And only 600 of the 9,000 figure were police guns that were stolen or lost. So what we do see is that criminals overpower legal gun owners and therefore are targeted for their guns in order for criminals to use them for criminal activity.
Just on owners being overpowered by criminals who then use their weapons against them, that brings us to the point about crime in this country, how it's forced a lot of people to then go firearms training and ultimately buy a gun to try and protect themselves. So until we get the crime situation right, there's very little hope that we will reduce at a significant or sufficient level the number of guns in circulation. Do you agree?
I agree to a certain point. What we do know is that if it comes to the point where you have to tussle and argue over a gun with a criminal, they will most likely overpower you. And we know that stats and research doesn't prove that guns are very effective in self-defense. So what we really encourage people to do is find other ways of means to protect yourself as opposed to turning to guns. We've seen in the news already when people try to defend themselves that those guns ended up being used against them. And in some cases, obviously, people end up shooting the wrong person, including their own children, when trying to defend with their firearms.
Does that, Sarah, not take us back to another point, that the issue is people, not the weapons themselves?
That people do the shooting as opposed to the gun?
That people are, of course, the perpetrators of crime. People are the ones who mishandle firearms and ultimately ending up in either an accidental shooting or an exchange of fire that goes terribly wrong.
Absolutely. And we know that, I think we need to treat the gun issue like a public health issue. We know that guns are fatal. We know that they are lethal. And there's no reverse in terms of the harm, maiming that they can, and death that they do bring. So what we say is, let's treat this like a public health issue and make sure that we can limit and, in any way that we can limit the exposure to the harm that guns bring.
And hopefully, very quickly, Sarah, this conversation that we're having has maybe motivated someone else to want to hand in their firearm. The amnesty period, I know it ends at the end of May. How does it work?
Absolutely. So if you go to any designated police office, police station, I'm thinking of the post office now. If you go to any designated police station where they are receiving firearms, firearm officers have been trained to receive those firearms. You get a receipt once you hand in your firearm. And what we are encouraging the police to do is also, take the information of the guns, do ballistic testing, so that we know the history of these guns and we know that we can destroy them, knowing where they've been and what crimes they may have been involved in. So it's very easy. Go to your designated firearms control officer at any police station that is involved in the amnesty, which is the majority of police stations all across the country.
Sarah, thank you so much for being on the lead this afternoon. That was Sarah Chitambo. She is spokesperson for Gun Free South Africa.